Okay, before we start, I would like to give a short introduction of who we are and what we do. Green RE, which stands for Green Real Estate, is Malaysia's leading green building certification rating. We were set up by REDA back in 2013 to drive sustainability in Malaysia's real estate industry. Our certification is based on Singapore's Green Mark. I'm sure a number of you would have heard about Singapore's Green Mark by BCA. And our certification, we cover a multitude of applications. So you can use our rating tools for buildings, hotels, factories, townships, hospitals, and so much more. We also conduct green building training programs and talks to equip professionals with the knowledge to facilitate a green building project and to create awareness for sustainable real estate. This such webinar is one of our awareness drives. Currently, we have a portfolio of projects covering more than 100 million square feet across Malaysia, and we are growing. Our certification is recognized by the Malaysian government and local authorities. Hence, once you certify your projects, you can qualify for income tax incentives and allowances under MIDA and MOF. Okay, that's all for the introduction bit on Green RE. I would now like to introduce our two speakers. Between them, they have over 50 years experience in the construction industry. Firstly, we have Mr. Shih, an architect by training. He has been in the design and construction industry for around 3 decades. And he's been involved in projects in Taiwan, California, Beijing, Singapore, and Malaysia. I am sure he'll be sharing more about his extensive BIM experience, both as a manager and consultant during his presentation. And notably, he was the BIM director for ACOM SEA. And our second speaker, to provide an overview of Malaysia's progress and direction for BIM, is Encik Farid Ahmad, a senior manager at the Industrialized Building System and Building Information Modeling Department, IBS and BIM, under the construction tech sector in CIDB. Encik Farid has been heading various departments in CIDB in relation to BIM development in Malaysia and is actively involved in the policy level of CITP, IBS, and BIM adaptation in Malaysia. Okay, without wasting more time, I would love to pass it on to our first speaker. But just a reminder, please leave your questions for the Q&A section in our chat box with your name and company details so that I may read it out to our speakers later. Okay, I would pass it on to Mr. Shih right now.
Okay. Yeah, let me share my screen. Yes. Okay. Okay, the first of all, I think thank you for Juanita and Ashwin to set up this opportunity for me to introduce they have a BIM talk for developer. And I think even my title, we talk about the BIM talk for developer, but actually this topic will be for all the top manager leader for all the company, consultant firm or construction firm or even the owner side, I think for the developer side. So I call this, those people are the leader of the BIM editing ship. And myself, my background was like Anita introduced, I'm an architect before, and I've been doing the architecture design, and earlier time, I'm a camp manager. And so that's the reason I get involved in BIM. So in my specialty in the maybe 2010, I back to Taiwan. I was born from Taiwan. Then I helped the government, Taipei City, to do the e-submission in that time. Like Singapore, they do e-submission. So we try to learn from Singapore to set up an e-submission. Then after that, I work in Hong Kong and Macau as a developer side and also general contractor side. So use the BIM to coordinate the project. And after that, the ACOM recruit me. I come to Malaysia to help and I'm as a BIM implementation director to help the company to do the BIM transformation, include the training, include the setup, the template, and for the modeling team, for the engineering team, for the management team. And that's my background. So usually I would say I'm not especially in really being, I'm the designer, I'm the project manager, and can go through design, construction, and also spill. And my presentation have a 3 section. The first section we talk about BIM marketing strategy, and that's for owner expectation and mutual benefit and win-win mechanism. The second part is the BIM transformation of obstacle. I include 1 policy, process, people, and technology. And the last one we talk about BIM project lifecycle management. And I separate in the little BIM and the big BIM. For this one, I think the Malaysia government, the CIDB, they indicate the established Industrial Revolution 4.0, and is something should relate to the BIM, Building Information Modeling. So this is about the digitalization. And also, the government also set up the year of 2019, and over the 100 million project, government project, need to use BIM. So for this, we talk about digitalization, and also we can reduce the cost, control the cost, and risk control for the construction industry. I think that's the owner's expectations. That's and also the government expectations. Then relate to the Industrial Revolution 4.0, I show out this graphic. You see the first Industrial Revolution, you talk about water power, steam power. The second, for the mass production, assembly line, electricity. The third is about computerized and automation. And fourth, we talk about big data, cyber physical systems. So the big data also related to artificial intelligence, prefabrication. Then I put this UK BIM roadmap with this Industrial Revolution. You can see the up is the UK BIM roadmap. Then we start from level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. Actually, I start work on the beginning because in that time, when I joined in the architecture team, we doing the traditional hand drafting. Then after that, a CAD come in. So for me, I work on the CAD very well. Then I become the CAD manager in the earlier time. And as an architecture designer, also doing CAD. And we know the CAD is just for architecture's field, it's just a drafting tool. It's doing the design, doing the drawing, and line. We deal with all the text. And of course, in that time, we already talk about CAD. CAD, computer-aided design or computer-aided drafting. I think in that time, we have some design, like a structure analysis software, that's a computer-aided design. Also in energy, the calculation software, that's a kind of design. So computer-aided design in this field. Then level 1, we talk about 2D and 3D. In this time, 3D most likely for presentation purpose. That's for doing the rendering, to do the perspective for developer. So level 1 still based in the CAD, but they have a three-dimension software. Then level 2, we talk about the BIM, start to putting the BIM in. So each BIM still separate architecture, structure, facility model, the building service, or the separate model. Of course, we talk about collaboration, integration. Then level 3 is iBIM. iBIM is an integrated BIM. And we know we all burden in BIM transformation until level 2. because we try to, from CAD, try to bring BIM in. So we have a lot of trouble on that. So always the try error to doing this process. So I will say for level 0 to level 2, a burden in the process of BIM transformation, kind of lonely BIM, because this BIM still doing its own, and all the sharing document still very limited. Before, when we use CAD, what's our sharing document? It's a hard copy drawing. So we pass each set of the drawing to different group. Then even the CAD is a digital, but we really don't use the digital power. So digital don't link to each other. So those exchanging information did not share. And even up to level 2, even we talk about collaboration. So a lot of companies still doing CAD and transfer CAD drawing to the model. And in this kind of process, we always doing CAD in the end of the project, then transfer to the model. Then we miss something. We miss the coordination. We miss the integration. So level 3, we talk about IBIM, integrate BIM. So we know the BIM can get a profit when you integrate. If not integrate, that means the garbage in, garbage out. So in the end, the owner still don't get a coordinate, digital information. So that's a level 2. We all struggle on this, and we try to learn from trial error to set up, but we don't get any benefit. Actually, we spend more benefit on that. In UK, they set up the target is a 2016, supposed to finish level 2, and they start to push IBIM, integrate BIM. Then I think in level, even right now, I think 50% of the UK company, they're able to do BIM, but there is still a lot of companies still struggle for that, but not even talk about IBIM. So I will say, before level 2, it's a kind of a transformation time. We pay a lot of fee, for BIM transformation. But I think I will say the BIM benefit, it will start IBIM. So we start to think about integrate, then the profit will come. And I will see BIM is a kind of information system change, because CAD is kind of drafting tool. But BIM is a kind of I would say, is a process, is a kind of management tool to put all the disciplines, the model all together, we can review on the platform. So there's a kind of a tool for coordinate. So I would say, when we're doing the organization change or the process system development, it deals with 4 factors: automation, rationalization, business process redesign, and also paradigm shift. Then BIM is a kind of information system change. So how can we get a benefit from each change? First of all, we talk about automation. So automation can assist an employee with performing their risk more efficiently and effectively. I think that's important. That's the reason we want to use BIM for our own, for example, like doing design and doing the production. You want a certain automation. And I show you the example. Okay, so we know if you pre-set up all the file, all the sheet, all the view, and even the schedule in the software, then because the BIM model, you can cut elevation section, that's a very efficient for doing this production. So BIM to CAD, the production is very efficient. And this, if we set up it right, It can be the automatic UAC. Then compare with the traditional way CAD process, and also compare with the BIM process, you will see for schematic design, design development, construction document, we need to spend a lot of time to do production. And after design coordinate, we always try to freeze the design, then we can concentrate to production, but the design keep on going, they never freeze. So a kind of squeeze out production time. Then we set up more time for construction document, but that's a really production time between squeeze. But if we try to use the BIM process, you will see we spend a lot of time to do coordination. Of course, production time being squeezed, but that's important in here to set up the view. We set up the view, we set up the sheet, and also do all auto tagging setup. Then this part is automation. Then this can help the production line. You have a basic drawing and aid, for the information later on. So that's the key to set up earlier time. So when you have a CAD drawing requirement, set up all the view, set up all the sheet in the earlier phase. Then keep on concentrating, do the design coordination, and later on in the last moment to do the production. And this kind of integrate, bring the design team and also production team bring together and set it up in the earlier stage. Then the second automation, I put in this one, that's from the EDABS, the system. So there's the structure and analysis sample. So after designing the finish this sample, finish this structure analysis, then you can IFC out to go to the Revit. Of course, they still have some bug, like a column intersection, but those things you need some certain manually to fix. But basically, most of the design you can transfer, structure design you can transfer to the BIM model. And the other sample, like a SAP, you do the steel structure design, and you indicate each member, the size, the type. Then again, you still use IFC out to transfer to Revit. Then you can get all the detail. You overlap with architecture drawing. You will find the structure and design. How that complex. Then you can get all the member, the detailed member. So that's a kind of automation we can take advantage of the software. So make a fully useful function of a BIM. That's very important. Again, it may not come automatically in this moment. So that's important to set up the process and which portion, which task is automation generate from the design software to production to the BIM software. Then which portion you still need to do the manual work to fix that. So that's a kind of the process made to bring automation and the non-automation process together. I think this stage is very important. Then and the other type of software, energy analysis software, the same thing. You get a space, you get a zoom, and you calculate the space, the zoning, the equipment need. Then that's the way you can use this automation part for the software. Then, of course, you still request for the process to link this whole thing together. So you think about those software may not 100% to link together. So you may still need to have a semi-automation or manually to do the job. And the process map is important to link these tasks all together. And also the other thing is BIM, the I part, information, and how to do material takeoff. And that's like this practice is course X. They use a DWF or export DWF file to the course X. But actually, you need to modify your big model. You can preset up the schedule to match the format. That's the way we can do. Okay, so that's between these two software. And of course, they still have other software like a Golden, like the other cost estimate, the material takeoff software. So you can reset up. And again, the next is rationalizations. Because like I said, certain function of the software can be automation, but the certain part may not automation. So how can you do that? That's a process. So that's a kind of, you need to set up the process. So like for the construction process, you have 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D process. You have sub-process to doing that. And that's a sample of the survey point cloud BIM model as point cloud model to BIM model. So that's a scan. Then you go through the software to get automation part out. You still need to have a manual to link all the pipe. So then you turn out with a BIM model. And you can put all the information link with the model. But you gotta know the process. In this process, a lot of people think, okay, then we have a scanner, then we get a BIM model. Actually, it's not right. Because when you get scanned, there's about 20% work done. Then you go through the, like edgewise, those software to do the modeling. But after the modeling, you still need to put the information in. So the construction data, input construction data, also do the BIM modeling, still take about 80% of work. So doesn't mean you have for existing building, you want to use a scan and become a spill model. You still a lot of work to do that. So for this one, you need to think about the process. So when you start have a BIM, then go BIM process, then make sure all the model is accurate. Then you can link all the information and go to the facility management. Doing the facility management system. That's another way to do that. But you gotta know the data needs to start from the beginning to the end. So that's a spill the process. So when you get a LOD 300 for design team, then you go through LOD 350, 400 for a spill. Then you need to do survey to make sure all the model is accurate and with the construction project. Then after that, you bring the information in, construction data, shop drawing, equipment category, and the quality on OMM to menu to link with this model, become a spill model, then link with the facility management, So and after that, still have a process, start from design to construction, and how to go through the information modify, and in the end can use for facility management. So that's the process. So after you get the big data, you can do in the video security modeling, those kind of setup for facility management or asset management. So that's the way, that's the way the process do. So we're gonna know, start from design, the document, you wanna have a digital document. You need to start from design. If you don't start from design, keep on modify that information, that data, then in the end, you try to have a existing building, then put the data in. That's a lot of work, still have a lot of work. But if you think about integrate this information together from the beginning to the end, that's a benefit. Otherwise, you have no benefit at all. And you can monitor that you have an entire system for that. Then we talk about rationalizations. Okay, that's a process get involved. And the other thing is a business process rethinking. Because since the BIM is a requirement, this is a requirement from one of the public project. They make it very simple. You need to use the existing best international practice. That means you need to use the international standard. And what is the international standard? They did not indicate very clear. And so they talk about you need to use BIM. That's it. And also, finally, they said you need to do the BIM. BIM is mandatory. Then you need to develop up to LOD 300 and make sure this such data can be developed, can be enhanced up to LOD 500. Of course, this kind of contract is very simple, and they just indicate what the target is, what the result is, but they don't show the process, how to make it happen. Of course, in this moment, a lot of projects, that's maybe right, because you put a target, I want a digital data, but usually they will end up with, because you need a digital data. So I still doing the traditional process, still use the CAD process. And the end of the project, I send a modeler to do CAD to make a model. So we call this post-BIM. It's been still doing CAD, then you make a model. And we miss something, coordination. We miss integration. So they will end up with no profit because this model become useless. And the design team or construction team cannot use this model doing the integration between the process. We don't get any benefit. So all the team don't have any benefit. How can you become a win-win mechanism? So that's very important. You think about integrate. Why we use BIM? If you still use CAD, that means we still have an individual drawing. Then we use an individual drawing to make a model. And this model, the interface, we did not coordinate. So the interface is still the problem. All the interface still need to go into the construction and we find out what's the problem, then we build. So all the headache, you still go over. So if you start in the level 2 to do only BIM, you don't have any problem. Then that's another example for the BIM IPD contract. So IPD, they talk about integrate project delivery. So compared with traditional design build, we have a problem in the construction. So we have an I5 in the construction time. Then we try to do design and build. So we try to move because the designer and the contractor together. So we push the coordination in earlier stage. So we call a kind of fast track. But the design and build, you get trouble because how can you, if design is still not complete, how can you pre-estimate the cost? Or can you do the budget? Unless this type of building, we already build again and again. We know the square feet, we know the roughly figure. Then we can get estimate in the earlier phase. Otherwise, you won't. And what is the IPT? That's a transitional process. You have a bidding here. Then general contractor join after bidding. Then the client is the owner, architect, engineer, they work out together. Then you will know a lot of problems happen in the construction interface. So you know all the problem in the construction project is interface between disciplines, architect, structure, MEP, and construction, the same thing. It's still between the interface between each professional team. So we try to use an integrated project delivery put in 2 phases. The first phase is pre-construction, and the second phase is the construction. So like I said, pre-construction and the construction two phase for design build contract. And that's the process I did in Hong Kong. And that's for the IPT project. So you will see the tendering price. So in the planning, bring the main contractor in. So main contractor set up a tendering price and join the design team, work out together. Then in the end, you put a guarantee maximum price, the same as the tendering price or less than tendering price. Then this construction team continue to do the construction. So in the plan, we call it a pre-construction. That's the first phase. The second phase, the construction. So they talk about buyout. So if this money and also tendering price the same or less, then construction team continue. If guarantee maximum price over than tendering price, then this construction team out. Then they re-tender, but the owner pay for consultant costs. And if you less than the tendering price, then they will spread in 4 parts for those different money, different. Assume if the tendering price is 1 million and guarantee, maximum price is maybe 750,000. So the other 250,000 spread in 4 portions. Owner get 1 portion, design team get 1 portion, and the construction team get 1 portion. So that's a kind of a share risk, and they have a benefit share. So I show you the 2 examples. One is the BIM, contract. They just list we need to deliver BIM. That the BIM is mandatory. And this one is put the process. They bring the integration process in to bring the integration coordination in earlier stage, and you get benefit. And what we talk about partnership, I think you all know about this graphic, how to bring the curve to the front. The CAP process, that's the number 3 is the CAP process, and the BIM process number 4. And we try to shift this coordination top to the front. But the designer sometimes say, why we want to bring this to the front? Because into the front, only the design team get involved. But if we put in the back, have a construction also get involved. The liability share. But if we bring to the front, and what's the benefit we can get? And if you, agree with me about the automation and also the rationalization, then you will see this curve can drop. You will gain the production, also coordination benefit. That's the part we want to get the benefit. So that's a kind of win-win. If you start to integrate and put whole thing together at the beginning and coordinate, then you get profit and maximize use the software automation function. Otherwise, if you doing the CAP process and the bring BIM in, you will have a double and triple handling. And right now, I said level 2, we have a lot of experience and burden in the level 2 because we all do the double handling. So the mindset needs to change and bring the integration, jump in to the BIM integration, bring coordinate together. You still spend the same time to do modeling, just bring the time to the front and set out the process to do coordinate. Then you jump, you get a benefit. Otherwise, you never get a benefit. And in the end, you still cannot deliver the project. And those are CAD drawing and the model separate. And the owner don't get benefit. And all the consultant or the construction team, contractor, cannot get a benefit for this coordination, for this integration. And just shift the time frame to the front. Then we talk about the optical, the BIM. To BIM transformation, we have 4 factors: policy, process, people, and technology. That's a BIM transformation. When we talk about policy, that means you deal with the business process rethinking, redesign. And you think about it as a paradigm shift. That's a kind of jump from CAD process to BIM process. That's a kind of jump. So then this thinking should be different. If how people to make a policy, all the leaders make a policy. If those leaders start to think about BIM for integration, BIM for coordination, then that policy will change. And once this policy change, then you start doing automation and rationalization, set up a process. And this process will benefit the process, benefit the production or design coordination. Then after the process set up right, then people under the process will get trained. And how about technology? Actually, technology is more advanced. All the software, all the BIM software, all the structure analysis software or energy calculation software, that's all advanced. But all you need is how to fit in the process. Maybe certain part is automation, certain part is not automation, and you use a process to link this whole thing together, and they will work. So important is the policy. Those leaders have a integration thinking. Then that's a teamwork. You want to bring the contract, the project management as a team. Then from that, you push to get a process, and they will work. So actually, all the optical, the first one is by the leaders' mindset change. The second is set up the right process. And this process is difficult because process is sometimes you need to get engineer and modeling team all work together. And you need to get the existing process and how to compare with the existing process and how BIM can benefit this existing process and set up to modify this process. I think that's important part. And after these two set up, then people follow the right process to train the people. For example, like an engineer, you need to build a model. You may not be a modeler, but you're able to build a model. You're able to use the model to do coordination. You're able to manage the production process. You know the structure of the software. You know what the model is thinking. You know what they do. Then you manage that. I kind of run out of time, but I make it really quick. So then we talk about mindset change for a leader. That's from the I use IDBC. I mean CIDB. They set up this industrial transformation programming for the year 2016 to 2020. This year 2020. I use this old document, and you will see they said the survey when 2014 is 10% Malaysia, but right now it's different. Then there's all the challenge we face, the lack of skill, talent, high cost of adopting and require for mindset change, and the lack of standard object library, lack of the guideline, but they have one thing, require a mindset change. And it turned out to the high need of the cooperation and the integration. And they all talk about facility management. But during these 4 years, 6 years, actually a lot of things happened. I think CIDB already have this standard BIM guide, BIM execution plan, and those things already start. So a lot of challenges already improved, but how about those change of the current way of working? For design team, still need to do that. For the government, the authority still need to change of the current way of working. And the construction team, the same. For the owner side, the same. So during these few years, do we doing this to change the current way of working? Or we still to use a CAD process to manage and to top of the BIM process? And we all do the double handling, triple handling, do that. I think that's important is a mindset change of our leaders. You need to lead to integrate thinking. If you jump to the integrate thinking, you start to think about teamwork, think about coordinate. Then you jump to the level 3. Even you do the same thing in level 2, you still do the higher modeling to do that job, but just shift that in the front to coordinate first, to make it happen first. Then that's a benefit. That can be the win-win mechanism happen. Otherwise, you won't. And that's a teamwork strategy. That's a big difference for the old business type. Because all the business type managed by contract. Okay. Then the other thing is a CDE, common data environment. That's the last thing I want to talk. Project lifecycle management, little BIM, big BIM. And from here, this is from CIDB. They talk about the same level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. And level 3, we talk about integration. Integration, they have a cloud here. So cloud-based is important. And they also talk about a single source of the information. And you want to make integration happen, this tool is very important. Then I would say, being like this small little being, the cone inside. And platform is a big thing. And you need a platform to coordinate. So in each stage, you have a lot of document. And put the document in coordinate, that's a BIM, put in the document. And BIM will link all the documents together. And this BIM will continue to make a cone. So this cone is kind of integrate. So this cone becomes useful, and they can start to link all the platform information. And the facility management, the most likely being complete, the model complete, and all still have some information linked to the cone. So this is the conclusion. I think that's a document from the CIDB. It's a readiness. So we think about, are we ready for that? I think we are ready. Within this few years, I saw the BIM capability already ready, but we need to change our mindset, integrate thinking, and to become the term benefit. Otherwise, you won't. And also, like green, red, talk about optimize the life cycle of BIM through BIM. Okay, and actually, BIM is create a transparent platform for leaders. All the leaders would like to use BIM, but the bring user in integrate thinking to bring BIM, to push BIM in earlier stage to join the coordination and integration. Okay, this is my conclusion. Okay, thank you. And the other thing is, that's my company, and I have a local friend, Palm Tree, but then, 10 Shun to help me to set up because she thinks that's important to bring BIM to Malaysia. So for me, in this moment, I can provide a free, consultation. If anyone, any company need to have some view for the BIM and set up a roadmap, I will come to help. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minchi. As you rightly pointed out, in order to move forward, even in the green building circles, mindset change is one of the most important challenges that we face right now. Okay, I would like to pass on the screen to Encik Farid from CIDB. Mr. Farid, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, what I'm looking at is talking about what CIDB is doing as far as BIM is concerned. Okay, just now Mr. Mishi talked about automation, rationalization, business process redesign, and paradigm shift. I agree very much with what he has told us, what he talks about. And he also talks about policy, process, people, and technology, and that's very important in transformation into BIM. But there's always the issue about lack of clear policy, contractual issues. People are not willing to change from current processes, and high cost of training and high cost of software and technology. That is why in CITP, what we have done under Trust 3 Productivity in Construction Industry Transformation Program, we put a mandate that says 100% of public projects worth more than 100 million for JKR building projects, including hospitals and schools, to use BIM Level 2 by Q4 2020. Okay, and BIM e-submission at all city status local governments by Q1 2021. 20% or 70% of public and private projects worth more than 10 million will use BIM by Q1 2021. So if we look at all these targets that we have put under Construction Industry Transformation Program, what we are trying to do is to basically mandate the use of BIM for projects. But of course, it is not mandated by the means of law or by forceful means. It's rather advising the industry to use BIM. Okay, and this is what is happening as far as the KPI is concerned when we set these mandates. We set at 8,000 digital objects in MyBIM library by Q4 2019. That was one of the items that Mr. Minshi has brought up just now. Lack of object libraries. So we have created the National BIM Library, and this can be accessed through mybim.cidb.gov.my. And the other target that we set is to train 4,600 BIM personnel by Q4 2020. But what we have done is actually we have trained 2,822 BIM personnel up to middle of this year. But unfortunately, we are faced with MCO. We are faced with COVID-19, so a lot of this training has to be stopped. So the other target that we set is big local governments to mandate BIM e-submission of coordinated design drawing via principal submitting person for projects exceeding 50 million ringgit. And that we have done using the National BIM e-submission program. And we have set BIM incentive scheme for public and private projects. And we can see from that, a lot of companies has already taken up these incentives. As of June 2020, CITP has produced encouraging results. Although some of the programs are given less priority now due to COVID-19 MCO. As I've said, CIDB has trained and certified 2,822 BIM personnel in various disciplines, from modelers to managers. So these are the resources that we already have in the market. This does not cover the number of people trained under different companies at their own initiative. For example, MRT is doing their own training. And I know CIDB properties is also doing training. And many other companies are doing their own training for their contractors and their people. And those are not reported into CIDP, definitely. And government projects that's using BIM under JKR has completed 7 projects. And if I look at the lineup of projects, they have hospitals, schools, universities, labs, and SPRM building for Selangor. And that is one of the completed projects. And 8 projects in completion. Namely, the most significant will probably be the Majlis Bandaraya Kuala Terengganu building in Terengganu, and Complex Endocrine Hospital Putrajaya that is being built. And these are all complex projects. These are all difficult projects. For example, hospitals, buildings, tall buildings, and polytechnics and so on. So these are complex projects and difficult projects, and this can only be achieved in time, at cost, and also with the right quality using BIM. So that is the effort that JKR is doing for the industry. And there are also 19 projects that is still in the phase of design and tendering. A lot of it are hospitals and institutes, as well as residential. So from that, we have already awarded all the BIM incentives that we have started out in 2016, and up to now we have already awarded 68 companies running BIM projects and using BIM. The incentives that we are given is in the form of software and training. There's no monetary incentives. So these companies are making use of BIM software as well as training, because we have learned in 2016, these are one of the biggest contention, cost of training and cost of software. So that's what CIDB is doing, or the government is doing, to help the industry. Right now, there are 6 local governments on various sizes are using National BIM e-submission. And we are forging ahead with a lot more local governments to use National BIM e-submission, or NBES. In the preliminary BIM report for 2019, just now we heard Mr. Minshi said the adoption of BIM was low in 2016, but right now we can see in 2019 under the prelim report, it shows there's 48% adoption of BIM over 2016, which is 17%. And I can share some of these figures, but the report has not been released yet. Then 93% of the respondents agreed that BIM has to be mandated for all projects. So mandate in such a way that it has to be a directive from the government. It has to be a directive from the Ministry of Finance or something like that. So you cannot build if you're not using BIM. So this is what the respondents think. This is the best way to spur BIM ahead for this country. 27% of the respondents will implement BIM within 3 years, while 17% within 5 years. So from 48%, we are looking at the increase of BIM adoption, from the respondents to as much as 75%. And industry awareness of BIM has increased from 33% in 2016 to to 66% in 2019. That really shows that the industry has learned or very much aware about BIM in Malaysia, as opposed to 2016 when people are not really clear what BIM is all about. Let's look at the priorities that the CIDB has set or the government has set for the new normal. CIDB and the government has put importance for the following under the new normal. Technology usage, creating job opportunities, and optimizing services. So under CIDB, these are some of the plans that we have done, trained and placed for more than 100 BIM professionals by Q1 2021. So we are looking at more if possible, if budget permits. So what we do is we train these people, these professionals or school leavers or people who has got no employment or people who has been displaced from the industry, train them in BIM, using BIM, BIM management, and place them in companies who requires these people. So we are still in the process of identifying companies that will be accepting the output from this train and place. So I hope anybody who's listening or looking at this can respond to us if they want to have these people placed in your companies. BIM and IBS pre-approved plans for more than 20 designs of affordable housing, namely Delight and Mayos, to reduce building costs. So we are putting these low-cost designs in the market by end of the year to help any companies, any developers who wants to build using these designs. And these designs will be pre-approved so that it will cut short on your building plans preparation and design. So we are asking the government as well, Kementerian Perumahan dan Kerjaan Tempatan, to accept these designs as low-cost designs. These designs are not just designs that we created. These are really research design under CREAM. And we also want to widen the use of NBES, National BIM e-Submission, BIM Auto Checker, to reduce BIM building plan approvals to less than 30 days at selected local governments. So in other words, if you submit your plans for approval, building plans, they will run through the checking process using the BIM Auto Checkers created by CIDB, and you can receive the results of compliance or non-compliance in a very short time. And again, these results will go through the OSC 3.0 committee. So approvals can be very much quicker, and that also means ease of doing business, cutting costs, because time is cost in construction. So when we can reduce that, then you can have your projects running at a very faster pace. So these are some of the efforts that we have done. So NBES, we hope, will be used by all local governments in Malaysia, 149 or 150 of them, for building plans approval, as long as it's in BIM. Of course, by all means, they will still do the normal approvals for conventional design, but if you're using BIM, it will be very much quicker. And we continue hands-on learning for BIM disciplines with the 14 newly revised BIM learning modules that basically a revamp of all the modules that we have for training in various disciplines. So this will allow the training process to go on in my BIM center, as well as 6 other ABMs across Malaysia and 6 universities across Malaysia. So a total of 13 training centers for BIM. So, and these courses will be conducted at a very much lower price than before, so that it will be able to help the industry to recoup their costs as far as training is concerned. So those are some of the efforts and benefits or help that the government is pushing out for BIM. To look at more of this effort, you can go to mybim.cidb.gov.my, and you can go through all the opportunities as well as the technology and knowledge that we have shared there. Okay, so that will be my presentation, and I thank Green RE for inviting me for that.
Thank you, Encik Farid. Okay, so we will now move on to the question and answer section because we're running a bit out of time. Okay, so far we have one question. It's from Mr. Kartik Pillai, and he asks, what is the common BIM software used in Malaysia? If either Mr. Minshi or Encik Farid would like to answer this.
Okay, the software depend on for infrastructure. We deal with CIDB. Usually we use the CIDB.
Hello, are we still on?
We are, but I think he seems to have frozen. Okay.
Okay, the survey that we have done, AutoCAD remains the top use in Malaysia, while Autodesk Revit and Autodesk Navisworks becomes the second level of BIM software that is being used. And then coming up with that is Trimble SketchUp, Planbar, Tekla, Graphisoft, ArchiCAD, and others. So there are also at the lower end, people are using Bentley, EcoSim, Vico, and MicroStations. So I would say the most common BIM software would be Revit and Navisworks.
Okay, I think Mr. Minchi was unplugged unexpectedly.
Okay.
Go on to the next question by Zulkarnain Hassan.
Yeah.
This question is, as we can see that the adoption of BIM for building usage locally are encouraging, moving forward, is there any takers for the BIM usage in planning or infrastructure?
Planning and infrastructure definitely is part of the BIM process. And definitely infrastructure is something that we have seen as far as BIM usage is concerned. If you look at linear projects that's run by MRT, for example, is basically 100% BIM from start to finish, or BIM binary numbers as is called. And there are also infrastructure projects in Lebuh Raya, Borneo Utara, North Borneo Highway that's planned and designed using BIM, and it's very, I would say, difficult process because the project is was being done on brown fields. So basically, you have to map everything into your BIM planning before you start building the roads. So there are other infrastructure projects, complex infrastructure projects, for example, railways and tunneling. There's Gamuda, for example, is using for their tunneling projects using BIM. So these are some of the projects that I can mention. Definitely, government projects will be using BIM for infrastructure, and I hope this will be taken up by JKR. Okay, Cik Zul, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, while Minchi is trying to log back in, any more questions? Okay, here he is. Mr. Minchi, you missed a question about the BIM software, and then we moved on to the next question, which was about using BIM for planning and infrastructure. Would you like to add anything to that?
Can you say the question again?
Mr. Zul asked about using BIM for planning or infrastructure, because it is being used for buildings, but it's not so apparent, and for infrastructure projects, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So you talk about the planning, that's for the master planning, something like that, for master planning?
I think it's just a general planning of a project, be it
It's a master planning.
master planning, yeah.
Okay. I think for master planning, that's important is in the earlier stage, the survey is very important. So when we start a project, when we do the conceptual design, then the survey model, point cloud model, and the existing survey model, and put your design concept, that's analysis is very important. Also the soil report, that's all together, and facility side for all the infrastructure facility outside the site, the utility, how to connect to the site, and those are conditions is very important. I think should set it up in the earlier stage in the existing survey. And that's the BIM can help in that survey model. Okay.
That's very true. I agree with you. In the preparation of the North Borneo Highway project, extensive survey was done to get the point clouds of all the existing brownfields, and also they did a road survey, an actual walking survey, to see to map all the actual connections as underground currently. So before they move anything or change anything in the construction process. So the planning process takes a long time because it's a mix of brownfields and greenfields when they were building the highway. So they have to integrate everything into the planning process before they start moving on with the construction process.
Yeah, especially when earlier design stage, we do value engineering. That means you bring the construction risk and in design phase to talk. So existing condition is very important, and also relate how to build the construction phase, how to form the models, three-dimension model, put all the information together, the help engineer or the contractor and owner side to how to reduce the risk.
Okay, we seem to be out of questions, but Mr. Minchi or Encik Farid would like to add anything from the earlier presentations or your thoughts on BIM?
Yes, I think because I've been through several different countries, from United States to Singapore to Bangkok, the Thailand, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China, even China, Indonesia. And I see Malaysia, maybe I think Singapore is start earlier and Taiwan also start earlier. But the same thing, I go through all the projects because we still stuck in level 2. So I still encourage the leader, the decision maker to jump in, to think about integration, because that's a business type is different. BIM is a kind of coordination tool. It's not a drafting modeling tool. So if you still use the modeling thinking, then never jump, you never get a benefit. So I think that's I have experience in design, so I know the design process, I know the construction process, and even the skill for doing the facility management. So I think that's very important to link all the process together. Then you need to take away from the cash thinking. Project manager, you always want to save your budget. They say, from CAD to transport BIM, maybe they save your money. No, actually not. Bring the internet integration in, bring the coordination in. They can save your money, can help you to get a benefit. So that's my presentation. I want to more emphasize in that. So all the company owner think about that. Use integration thinking. That's a different from the CAD, different from the traditional process. That's what I want to emphasize. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Minchi. We do have one more question, and I think this would be should be answered by Encik Farid. So the advantages of BIM is well known, but we are still facing a number of obstacles in Malaysia for implementation. In your perspective, in CIDB's perspective, what can we do to overcome this, or strategies that can be used to improve this situation?
Well, the first thing that I can see as far as BIM adoption is concerned is contract. If it is not included in the contract, then a lot of people will be reluctant to use BIM. So I would say clients or consultants have to include BIM as part of the contract. As Mr. Minshi pointed earlier on, in the contractual documents, you must put there the mention that BIM has to be used in a particular project. The second thing is the capacity building and the reskilling, upskilling of any companies who wants to adopt BIM. There will be a learning curve for BIM. There will be a time when the income or the process of the company has to go a little bit on the downside, because you have to take time to teach people, to skill people as far as BIM is concerned. So I would say to encourage more BIM adoption is number one, contract. Number two, reskilling, upskilling, training. There's nothing much that you can do as far as software or technology is concerned. As we have seen, the cost of software has increased significantly over these few days or few months. But at My BIM Center, we have a place in the My BIM lab, we call it, where you can rent and you can use whatever software that is already in there, that we have already in place, to do your design or your learning or your whatever process that you have in BIM, because all the software is already there for you to use. So the process of renting the place, as well as the 6 My BIM satellites that we have across the country in ABM, you can rent those places and use the software to do your planning. So not necessary that you have to buy all the software. Okay, so we try to reduce as much as the cost of adoption in this country, but the catalyst has to be the clients or the consultants to put requirement of BIM in the project. From then on, then a lot of things that we can do to help companies to adopt.
And I would like to address a little bit in the other way, because I talk about win-win, you know, the strategy. The owner side, you need to rethink about that, because you put all the requirement, of course, BIM requirement, but if you still keep the CAD requirement, they may not be feasible, because since all the design is coordinated in the model, so the CAD is a kind of the process delivered. I mean, it's for submission. So all the checking won't, you know, take great detail on the CAD drawing. For example, for the structure drawing, we talk about rebar. A lot of rebar drawing will put manually, not in the model, in the design phase. But if you in the preliminary design, you require the rebar drawing, then in the design development, you need to do it again. And final design, do it again. So if only think about the major coordination is most important, so you may avoid some of the unnecessary drawing in terms of the CAD process you need. But in the BIM process, a lot of things need to change. So there's something you need to integrate. You think about coordinate side. So the owner side, you help each other. You help consultant, and consultant also can make a group. Maybe you have MEP people, structural people, architect. You work together, very familiar with the process. You set up your own team process. Then for the market side, you get more benefit from the project, reduce the risk, reduce the complex. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Minchi. Mr. Farid, as you rightly mentioned just now about training programs, you have an offer from Miss Dora. They are a private distance learning center in North Malaysia, and they offer construction management programs, and they are interested to work together with CIDB to create a program for hands-on learning of BIM. And they're keen to start a discussion with your side. So Green RE will assist to link both of you up, and then you continue this conversation off screen. Yes.
Fantastic. That's good.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Go, did we answer your question? I hope we did. I think we did. Yeah. Okay. So far, no more questions. So I think we will offer the floor again to our board of speakers just to wrap things up before we end the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we don't have anything more. And we have a post-event survey form. I just included a link in our group chat. Appreciate if everyone will take about 2 minutes to fill it up. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to put up the web page for you to check on the trainings that we have. Okay. That's the web page. I can share the link directly from.
Okay. Once again, we would like to thank both our speakers for spending the last 2 hours with us, and it was certainly an informative session for Green RE and all our invited participants. It's very heartening to know that we are just at the first stage of BIM, and there's so much more opportunities and to incorporate, and it's exciting to see that we're just at the start. It's a long journey, and we're happy to know that both CIDB and consultants such as Michi are passionate about BIM and want to be included and integrate all parties involved. So yes, thank you again, and Green RE will be in touch with all the participants with our future webinars and events and our training programs as well. And so thank you.
Thank you very much, Green RE, Juanita, and Ashwin. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Anyone have a question, you're welcome to send me an email, and I will be happy to help all the people. Thank you.
Thank you.